NFL double bang from Mike Breen, and that brings us, Dominique, to your favorite part of the show.
You know the rules, Greeny.
There will only be two.
Thank you. Thank you.
There will only be two D's notes. Let's talk about the Eagles. They've lost a lot on defense. How much? Well, they lost their leading sacker in Josh Sweat. They lost their leading interceptor in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Going back to 1982, when individual sacks became official, the Eagles are only the second Super Bowl champion to lose their leader in picks and sacks. The other one was the 2012 Ravens, who then went on to miss the playoffs 4 of the next 5 seasons. Thus, J-Mac, how concerned are we about the Eagles' defense, which was the reason they won the championship, taking a step backward next year?
I have a low level of concern. You look at it, yes, there's going to be a leadership component that's missing. Especially a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You're going to need somebody to bring that attitude. But Howie Roseman has drafted for this. Sidney Brown was a guy they took in the 3rd round out of Illinois, a safety. He has to step up. Keely Ringo was a guy behind Darius Slay. He has to step up. Jalix Hunt was a guy drafted to play defensive end to replace Josh Sweat. And the draft this year hasn't even taken place. So I look at this Eagles team. They have so much talent. The guys to replace him are already on the roster. Now it's just stepping up into the role and what you've learned from those guys that have got more money to go elsewhere.
Mike T, it sounds to me like that's Howie Roseman, the general manager, playing chess, right? While the league plays checkers, he is a step ahead of everyone, seeing these players were going to be departing.
How about this? Over the next 2 years, they have 20 draft choices, and at the end of the 2025 season, they have 3 free agents. Ooh. That is remarkable. That has to do with being proactive and hitting on your draft choices.
And it also has to do, if I may, as an aside, it has to do with something that every NFL team should be doing much more of, and that is paying their players early.
Oh, for sure.
When you have a player, and you have to make up your mind, this guy's going to be a part of our future.
Yep.
And Nick, I know as a union guy, you're sort of.
Come on.
But you also can pay them less by paying them earlier, right?
Absolutely. If they show that they can play, make their pockets extra sloppy, they will come out to the game and ball out. That's the way it works. And I think that we have to give a lot of credit to Howie Roseman for what he's constructed there, but the players are working. So I think every GM has a plan. Like, the rest of the GMs in our league aren't dumb. Like, they're as smart as Howie Roseman. They have plans and they have ideas, but then they get players who don't pan out. So you name all the people that are leaving, we can go down a longer list of the guys that are still there. And a number of them are still on rookie deals, which, like, that's the part that is that makes this plan work, is that the players are panning out, which, again, is connected to the coaches and the general manager.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, the inverse of that is, show me a good organization, I'll show you the mental toughness of a front office and ownership, and specifically Bryce Huff. He was their big free agent acquisition. He was inactive for the Super Bowl. Yeah. No one's talking about that. You look at the Rams. They gave over $100 million guaranteed when Sean McVay was the head coach, Jared Goff. He walks in and says, hey, we have a chance to get better. Philadelphia, pay Carson Wentz. We have a chance to get better with, obviously, Jalen Hurts. So to me, you got to be able to admit your mistakes and move on.
See, this is the point. If you're going to pay guys, those are my glasses, we'll be okay.
They were.
If you're going to pay guys early, what's going to happen is you're going to make a mistake on one or two or some of them, and you have to be willing to do that. And NFL general managers, it's not that they're not smart, it's that they're afraid to make that mistake. And part of the reason is because too many owners have these quick triggers and they say, wait, we paid that guy and we didn't win the championship this year? You're out. And that is the problem. This is the mental toughness that we're talking about.
And it helps that Eagles ownership has consistently stood by Howie Roseman.
That's my point.
Through difficult times as well. But yeah, I think when you talk about paying players early, it gives you cost certainty on those guys. And when these teams look at their salary cap and their budgets, they do it in what? Like 3-year chunks, right? Like so hey, at the end of 2024, Milton Williams and Josh Sweat are going to be free agents. We better draft some defensive linemen, which they have. So they're able to figure out what the budget is going to be able to tolerate, and do it a couple of years out. And I think by paying the guys early, that gives them that they don't get stuck, right? They don't get stuck in a situation where we don't know what this guy is going to cost next year, and we have to play around it.
Quick note for the studio, I will require an antibacterial wipe, please. My glasses have been on the floor, and thus they will not be worn until I'm going to require some sort of antibacterial wipe.
That's why we know J-Mac's a DB. If he was a receiver, he would have caught it.
Yes. Wow. Where were you? I'm counting on you.
I wasn't ready for it.
No, that's what we like.
I didn't know the snap count. I'm deflecting it. I'm knocking it out.
Call the phone.
Exactly.
Where was the cat-like quickness that I was counting
Mike T's
on?
coming at me if he would have paid the daggone guys early. Like, my goodness.
Okay, let me see if I can read the second D's note because I don't have my glasses on. And Dominique, would you read this one? Read it nicely. Read
it nicely.
this stat.
Last year, each of the top 9 finishers in pass blocking.
No,
not that one.
sorry. Start at the beginning. You know what? I'll just do this.
What? It has a big arrow next to it. He handed me a piece of paper with a big arrow pointing to a paragraph. I read the paragraph with the arrow on it, and I get called. Poor coaching.
You're right.
That was for me. I make notes to myself. I want to, whatever. Not your fault, but not mine either. Let's start over with a second D's note, and let's focus on the Chicago Bears, who've done an amazing job overhauling their offensive line, adding Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. Why is this so important? ESPN started tracking pass block win rate in 2017. How often you hold your block for at least 2.5 seconds. That's what measures that. The most important thing in the sport that was something the Bears, it's the worst Achilles heel to have. It was theirs.
You're telling my secret. For the past 9 years or so, I make a list of the best offensive lines, and that's where I start picking from for who I think is going to make the playoffs and have success, because that is the one thing that it gives you a level of flexibility. I think about it in basketball terms to some degree in having switchable defenders. Like, you can do so many different things when you have an O-line that can protect. You can do quick game, you can do long game, you can do trick plays, you can do all types of foolishness, you can run the ball. It takes so much pressure off of everyone else on the team, and it puts you in a situation where you're impossible to game plan against. It's really tough to game plan against a team that can protect.
You know, when I had the privilege of becoming a GM the year before, we had lost 2 quarterbacks in 7 snaps, Chad Pennington and Jay Fiedler. And I said, look, I don't care if John Elway is in this draft. At the time, it was Jason Taylor, Richard Seymour, amongst others, but we wound up drafting DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, Nick Mangold, who were the foundation of some really good teams. But without an offensive line, it's really hard to win on the road. It's really hard to capture the line of scrimmage in a lot of different ways. So to me, like, they should have done this a year ago, but give them credit. They fixed the problem.
What do you think? Are the Bears right now, you live in that palatial estate in New Jersey is what I'm told. Would you be willing to wager that palatial estate of yours that the Chicago Bears make the playoffs this year?
I would. And I look at the addition of Ben Johnson. And sometimes you lose the house, you lose the family too. That's a little bit of a break for me if we lose them as well. But I look at this, not only do you add this head coach as an offensive coordinator, but you look at the play style. You get these offensive linemen up front, and it allows you to play the way Ben Johnson wants to. That takes pressure off of Caleb Williams when you can run the ball and get after the passer on the other side.
What did you just say?
Within the house. If you lose the house, sometimes you lose the family for a little while. Right. And that's a break that sometimes is needed. So either way, I'm good.
Your kids are all greeny.
Yes.
My man just want a night. He just want a night in the hotel, greeny. Man just want a night of quiet rest.
You're confident they're not watching? Is that what's going on? Or you want to deliver this message?
There's no way. They're already at school. The wife is busy. She doesn't watch me.
You say whatever you want.
So they didn't see the drop glasses?
Oh, gosh.
Speaking that's why I'm retired.
Brandon, if you would be so kind, here we've got the antibacterial wipes. Okay, fair enough. So we'll be doing a little cleaning here. This is alcohol prep pads, and we got all of this. So the glasses shall be in place.
You can read
firmly
again.
in place. We are back on Get Up, and I'm going to do something now that is called Foxy's 5, and I want to take you behind the scenes. Yesterday, Dominique Foxworth committed probably the greatest sin you can. He told the Get Up team, I don't need any more named segments. We love a name-based pun. And he complained that we have too many of them with relation to him. And so, as retribution for that, our producer, Ash Colley, today and the team decided we're going to do 5 separate Dominique Foxworth name-based puns to do 5 different questions. So the first one is, what does D Fox say?
Oh, gosh.
And if you were to, if this one is Jerry Jones and Cooper Kupp, go.
I would say that Cooper Kupp is going to go elsewhere. Cooper Kupp's a free agent right now. Jerry Jones could use a receiver, and it would be a perfect fit down there to go opposite CeeDee Lamb and support Dak Prescott. I would love Cooper Kupp to go to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys would probably love Cooper Kupp to go to the Cowboys. But what you don't understand is it's free agency. And Jerry ain't going to pay nobody no money in free agency. He's going to go draft him and then
overpay him late when they become free agents of his own.
So, Dan Graziano, to be clear, I should not be expecting at any moment here for you to turn to me and say, Greeny, I have breaking news. The Dallas Cowboys have signed Cooper Kupp.
It's possible, but I do think that the price would have to be pretty low. And if he's getting interest from a number of different teams, the price tends to go up.
I mean, here's the one thing. The one thing that sometimes people like me do, because I don't have a stopwatch and all that kind of stuff, is I tend to overvalue an aging player, particularly one who has an injury history. Is Cooper Kupp going to make a big difference for someone this year, J-Man?
I think he is, and I think it has to do with what Cooper Kupp brings on the field, but also off of it. This guy is a leader. He understands defenses as well as he understands offenses. So you look at some of these teams, you look at a New England Patriots, a Seattle Seahawks, teams that absolutely need help at the wide receiver position, you're willing to overpay for a guy like Cooper Kupp, because if you draft a young guy or you bring guys up like New England has, they drafted 2 receivers last year, adding a Cooper Kupp helps bring those guys along too, and that adds value for him.
Context is everything, Greeny. If he goes to Dallas, all the coverages are going to roll to CeeDee Lamb, the best corner. So to me, is Cooper Kupp still better than the opposing team's second or best third corner? Absolutely.
Okay, so that was What Does D. Fox Say? Again, got bored. Just because we're mad at him, we're doing another name-based pun, and this one is our unique perspective. Give us something that not everyone else is saying.
The Cincinnati Bengals will once again miss the playoffs this season. I think that we expect them to be incredible offensively once again. Their big issue is on their defense, and their best defensive player is still not signed to their team. They still haven't extended either of those major receivers, and the quarterback is currently not happy. They haven't addressed any of their major issues in a meaningful way so far. So I don't know why we are expecting them to somehow be better this year than last year. We're just expecting the offense to completely carry them, which is not something that you can rely on.
And the reality is that even if they signed T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Trey Hendrickson, they didn't get better. They just got more expensive. That said, should we be expecting Trey Hendrickson to get traded?
I mean, it's certainly possible, but so far the Bengals' asking price has been higher than teams have wanted to pay. So if that comes down, then yeah, maybe, because you're talking about giving a first-round pick and more, and then bringing in a guy who wants a $30 million a year contract. That's a lot. I mean, teams aren't really eager to do that. So it's possible the demands drop. It's possible somebody gets desperate enough to do it, but he's 30 years old. Like, I don't get the sense that people want to give away their first-round pick.
Yeah, look, if it's $30 million, that's a bargain compared to Myles Garrett at 40. Now, look, Myles Garrett's a better player, but this is a guy that has 35 sacks in the last 2 years, and although he's 30, he didn't play a lot early in his career with New Orleans, so I think there's a lot of tread left on the tire. And Meek, you mentioned something interesting about him not being under contract. He actually is. I just think he's disgruntled. Right. So now you have to figure out how to solve that if I'm Cincinnati, which is obviously a massive problem.
And the crazy thing, you said not make the playoffs, and we're talking about even if they pay Jamar Chase, they get a contract with T. Higgins, they bring Hendrickson back on a new deal, we're looking at a team that's exactly the same. So could you look at the Bengals front office and say, you know what, we're not going to pay all of these guys, because if we're going to be the same and not make the playoffs, why shove out all of this money to our star players and we still can't get over that hump?
Earlier in the show, when we were lauding Howie Roseman, I made the point that I think most teams are smart and most teams have a plan. I said most.
Right.
I said most for a reason. Because these aren't surprises, Greeny. Like the fact that you have it, and sometimes, of course, there's a surprise here or there, but none of these players wanting more money or wanting their situation sorted out is a surprise. None of the players having to leave in the past was a surprise. Finding adequate replacements for Bates and guys like that, suitable corners, like that's something that you have to do routinely, and they haven't been able to do it.
And I just want to make clear, I will preface what I'm about to say by saying that Joe Burrow, to my knowledge, has not said this to anyone, and if he did, he wouldn't say it to me. I don't know Joe Burrow at all. But there will come a time, I believe, where this will stop being okay with him. I thought he's sort of started walking down that path at the Super Bowl this year. You mentioned the word disgruntled. We have not seen a lot of gruntled Bengals over the years. He's sort of, they gave him the money. At some point, I think this is going to become a problem.
Greeny, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. My wife reminds me of that every day. But,
tone and delivery.
Yeah, but when he went into the detail about cash flow, cap numbers, like, I'm not saying it's Carson Palmer, but gosh, I don't think we're far away. In 2011, Carson Palmer said, I'm retiring and I'm not playing for Cincinnati anymore. So I agree. If these issues aren't resolved, they better be careful, because Joe Burrow without him, like, we're starting
And
over.
he knows it, and he's looking around, and we're comparing him to the Patrick Mahomes, the Lamar Jackson, the Josh Allen. He needs his guys.
So Myles Garrett taking the money over the winning. Is that Fox worth it?
I already know your answer.
It's absolutely worth it. What the hell wrong with y'all? I mean, I'm a little disappointed in Myles Garrett, mostly because I'm disappointed in myself, because I believed him. When he was out there, I was like, yeah, you're right, Myles, you deserve to play for a winner. You made enough money, and your Hall of Fame career is not going to involve you making a deep run in playoffs. Damn right. And the fans in Cleveland were even behind him. And then it didn't even take long. Like, we didn't even get to training camp. We didn't get to training camp. And they were like, hey,
OTAs.
how about this? He was like, yeah, I can run. Yeah, you got me.
I didn't know that was going to be there.
I don't blame him, but yeah, it just
So do
upset me.
we, at the end of the day, think this was really all about money all along? Because I agree with you. He came on with us on the Sunday of the Super Bowl, and I was like, oh, this guy's gone.
The proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, like, you know, that's the thing. Your words don't.
Or did he run into a brick wall? I mean, did he come to believe, no, we will not
brick
trade
wall
you?
is
no
down the
matter
road. Yeah. The brick wall that he would have to run into would be sitting out games.
Right.
That ain't till September.
Yeah, get down the road,
Yeah, he saw that brick wall in the distance, and there was a big pool of money between him and that brick wall, and he dove in it.
That's
and
it.
I can't blame him.
It is the ultimate proof that anytime anyone says it's not about the money, it's about the money. Final word.
I was stunned that we didn't have that extension in September when they're like, oh my gosh, he's going to miss games. Like, the stunning part to me was the timing.
He looked at Joe Thomas' career. He said, Joe T's doing all right.
I think the stunning part was the money.
And maybe, in fairness to him, he realized that him doing it then gave them a better chance of one of these quarterbacks wanting to sign with them, or whatever the case may be. Not that
It might. I don't know.
You never know. Okay.